And I'm sure, if you're like me, you remember the good old days. If you're younger, maybe you just read about them. But here's the man who's done all these things, all these accomplishments, winning Le Mans, running those sports prototype cars, the Ferraris at Sebring and Watkins Glen, and winning endurance championships, and then going on to the Paris-Dakar and running there for several years and winning as well. So that's a lot to talk about, a huge career. And it so happens that if you want to talk races and what happened when and what happened the weekend at Watkins Glen, it's all in this book here, recently published. It's 7 pounds and 600 and some pages. It is. But it's all in here. And so talking to Jacky the other night, he said, well, I don't really want to talk about the races necessarily, but the people and the memories. And I look back at the kind of what they thought about safety at the time as things slowly evolved. And then Jacky was involved, of course, with Stan 21 and Eve fairly early on. Talk a little bit about that, but mainly the people. And so we'll let you be here, and I will grab one of these. And as I show things, we'll just casually talk about what you see there and how you remember things. Thank you.
Okay. Well, of course, good morning, everyone. I so strongly believe we are members of the same company in a way. And I'm tempted to say my friend, because we have in common clearly the passion for motor racing. And you represent probably all the aspects of motor racing. And there is a lot to talk about it. So clearly, Yves, it's part of those pioneers who started to talk about safety and who was involved in the huge progress of safety during these, as far as I'm concerned, I would say 60-something years. It's a lot. It's really a lot. What you have to know, and probably some of you know because there are different type of generation here today, safety was not existing in motor racing in the early days. We started from scratch. The best thing I can remember in those days, as far as safety was concerned, was straw balls. That's all. Clearly, that's all, because we were not even using a circuit. We were using the roads to build up a circuit and to organize a circuit and the fans around. So, can I say we were not clearly in the Stone Age, but not far away. Let's say the polished Stone Age. So, yes, I did.
Talking about the beginning.
Just give me 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Just
sorry.
It's tempting to believe you are doing something exceptional or whatever, or if they call you a legend or an iconic driver. I think that's not the point. The point is to tell you that racing drivers, and in many aspects in life or other lives as well, they are in a way the top of the iceberg. They pick up the light, they pick up the glory, they are kind of thieves in a way, because underneath the level of the top of the iceberg, you see, there is a large group of people. And you know what is an iceberg? That much on top. It's very impressive what you have underneath. It's impressive because the people who are there, who share the same passion as us, you never see them. But they have the motivation, they have the love for motor racing, and they prepare the tool to help you to win or to lose a race. But without them, nothing exists. And that has to be said. 90% of the job is done in the shadow. And also when you are successful for these people, the satisfaction is to have done the right job. And for those who haven't done it correctly or are reaching almost the top, is to make another extra effort behind to. So when you come here to hear me or to hear Yves, and it's because he's another generation now. He has the luck to have two sons who are taking over, but I think that's the most important to say. Another way to explain who is behind the car racing, when you speak about me or other famous drivers like Mario or Jacky Stewart, I'm sorry for your... Yeah, we'll catch up. But you are so important, all of you, in that sort of life. And I should add also the spectators. If the show is good, if the spectators are there, you have room for organizer, you have room for motor racing. And what I'm trying to say, it's valid in every aspect of the life. But we are together, and of course, today we share our passion for motorsport. So, yes, the book is important. I'm not necessarily making a promotion on the book, because yesterday I met Mario, and I say, well, the first thing we say, we are survivor. We were lucky to survive from that era. When I meet Mario or I meet Jacky Stewart, we say, we are alive. It's a miracle, because we really race a lot in extreme condition. I'm not taking advantage to the fact that there were no safety. We were free to accept what we love to do, and we knew everything may happen. And I think in a way it's a freedom. Whatever, if you take Alex Honnold, who is climbing El Capitan, for example, without any safety, who is the champion of the extreme for those who are climbing, doing it without rope, without any helmet, without anything. This 1,000 meter of El Capitan, it does it. So I don't take the advantage of saying, well, I'm brave or whatever. It's maybe risky, but it's a free choice. So that's important to say. So about Mario, I told him, I just realized that this gentleman that I didn't know before told me he made the list of races, and there are, I don't know, 578 races in it, including motorcycle. And Mario told me I did 920. So it's everything is relative in a way, but on all that story now we will start. I think the most important, it's not what you have done, it's the people you have met. Well, actually, because clearly at a certain age, the checkered flag, it's not that far away. You can see it. You say, well, You have to use the time correctly, and a number of things has to be said. The human aspect in motor racing, clearly, it's, for me, the most interesting part, in a way. After we speak of the Dakar and all these things, because also there are options where you can have another vision of the world, and also a vision where it's much larger and it's not only concentrate on one subject. Well, that has been said. Maybe we can start.
Okay.
Alors.
Going back. Going back a long way, as a young lad, your father was quite supportive, and here you are meeting Fangio. What were you thinking of at that point?
Well, honestly, I didn't expect to have explained you the private part of my life, but there are always some friends who are ready to put the picture on the table. So, alors, that's my first racing car on the left. It has also 2 pedals, like today. But yes, you have to pedal, I'm afraid, but that's the way. Anyhow, on the right you have, in the center, Juan Manuel Fangio, winning the 1953 Grand Prix at Spa. And then you have a small kid up there with some flower and with a very funny hat, you know? Yeah, it's very funny. It's me. I was taken there by my father. I thought it was very boring, the Grand Prix. And I asked him not to take me back in the future to any kind of motor racing. Because you have to know, I never dreamed about motor racing. I wanted, when I was grown up, to become a gardener or a gamekeeper. So it's really far away from motor racing. Sorry.
But then you didn't go on.
It's not finished yet. I have to explain. You still have a half an hour.
I'm on the American pace.
No, I say that because what took me in motor racing, it's the fact that I was not very good at school. But I was already fairly clever in a way, because I always promised my parents to do better, that I was never planned to do, but I promised it, so you can see I'm really a thief. They gave me to make me more happy about school and to encourage me to do well and to go to university and all these optimist things, because the parents care for their children, for their future. They gave me a motorcycle, and for the very... No, you can put the motor. They gave me a motorcycle, and rather than being on the last bench, near the window, in the winter near the radiator, not disturbing many people, so I was okay with my teacher. They gave me a motorcycle, and rather than being last, I discovered that I could be relatively good. So my parents were very happy to find that I had a passion for something, and I was doing relatively well. Later, they had a hard time about that choice, but anyhow. This is trial. I don't know if it exists in United States, but in Europe there is a competition which shows you the ability to go in very special sections without putting any feet down, and then you have one picture or more picture on motorcycle? Only one? Okay, it's okay. No, it's okay. Okay. I say that because also during my career, it's clear that on wet conditions I was clearly quite good. And also my opponents were feeling that I was doing well. And the reason is it's because I did motorcycle before. You have to have the balance. You have to be a soft touch for the grip. You have to read the surface, more water, less water, the slippery side and everything. But the reason I was doing well on wet conditions, clearly it's a motorcycle. In that aspect, I did also enduro and kind of motocross. And that will help me later to do off-road racing in the desert, because you learn how to read the surface and you can predict what's coming and so on. Okay.
And you quickly moved into sports cars, Formula One, with owners like?
Yes. On the left side, you have John Ware, the head of the John Ware team. That's opened we have also Ken Tyrrell somewhere. Okay. Well, anyhow, that gives me the idea to speak about Bernie and Carl Haas. They were talented as a team, Carl and Bernie, because they were really a team, these two. I don't know if you know them. You know Carl Haas and Bernie?
Yeah.
Okay, because he chose me to drive the Can-Am in '79, and we had a fantastic season. But more than that, I loved so much their human aspect on motor racing. It was really like Ken Tyrrell, that we are going to see later, if I understood. They are just outstanding. They were, you were in the team a family member. You could be the son, he could be the father, he could be the coach, he could be everything. And I like to mention them because they were humanly fantastic, and probably the second part, it's probably even more interesting, that the incredible goals they have done together. So now we have John Ware. At John Ware, there is another, the man in charge of the races were David York. Same comment for him as humanly. 67, the Mirage, which was originally a GT40, modified, who is a better sleeve trimming, a coefficient of penetration in the air better, to go back in 68 to Le Mans. The number 6, the car, it's an iconic car that I don't have to explain you, that it remained in motor racing one of the iconic car, and that makes you think about that era where you had Carroll Shelby, Roger Penske, Jim Hall, and many others. That car is iconic because what is interesting in racing, it's when you have no idea who is going to win it until the last minute. At the finish, there were only under 20 meters between our car and the Porsche. The originality was to start last and to finish first. It happens sometimes. It's not a dream, it may work, definitely. I start last because regarding the safety, it's clear that running to your car, jumping in your car, starting the engine, go to the straight at Le Mans at 330 kilometers per hour at the time, and put your seatbelt, your 6-point seatbelt on, I guarantee you, you have to be a magician to be able to do it. And obviously, I was not a magician, but some other were, maybe. But it means everyone started in those days without seatbelt. And people think I was an inspiration for the change of the Le Mans start. But the reality, the man who changed the Le Mans start killed himself on lap 1 at Le Mans. And he went off, no seatbelt, lost his life. This gentleman is called John Wolfe, and he is the man who changed the rule for Le Mans. I was only a small step on that. The story, the end of story. I know you are in a hurry, but I have not finished yet because I. The story is for the last 3 years we fight with the Porsche. The incredible that we had to change our racers at the same time, refuel at the same time, and we could not leave each other for the last 3 years, and that was covered for the first time by a Breguet Atlantico. It's an airplane, live. So for the last 3 years, nobody knew who was going to win. Anyhow, to beat the gentleman who is called Hans Hermann, who was a real talented and expert Formula One driver and another survivor in a way, I have to use a trick that usually you don't use in motor racing. Anyhow, we realized that 20 seconds before 4 o'clock, we had to do an extra lap. And unfortunately, I show him the previous lap what I was going to do to try to beat him. So, and to beat him, it was absolutely important that I could take his slipstreaming down the straight. It was vital because his car was faster than mine. So as I show him that I was planning to do, I have to find something else. So I remember that when I was younger, when I was dating a young girl, I had some problem with the engine sometimes, and I stopped for a while, on the side of the road to find all sorts of excuses. So that's what I did the last lap. I slowed down more and more and more, and at the end he thought I was running out of fuel. And then he went, and then I went too in his slipstreaming, and then I beat him at the end. So you see, in normal life, you can also learn a number of things that can be used in motor racing. So,
Here's Ken Tyrrell.
Ken Tyrrell equal to Carl Haas and Bernie. It took me when, you have to know something. I had my driving license driving tanks. And I practiced my, because there was a military service in those days. So when I was still very young, I had to do my service. So I used to, the Caterpillar were steel in steel, so you could slide on 47 tons tanks around the buildings, making a lot of sparks, and even you can park backwards. So you block a Caterpillar, and then you spin, and then you let go, and then you park. And as I was an instructor, in the end, everyone was able to do some spins with tanks, French tanks. It took me in the early days. He believed in me. Before going to the army, he was there afterwards, and he really is the man who gave me my chance to grow up in motor racing. Because motor racing in those days, it was like having classes. You have to go step by step to the next one, and there was always someone to offer me a car. About safety, in the early days when I was driving saloon car racing, I was wearing a Fred Perry tennis shirt. I give you that detail because it's the equal of a Ralph Lauren shirt, and everyone was racing like that. And the overall was supposed to be fireproof, but when it was washed one time, it was finished. And honestly, it was made out of cotton, and to have that or nothing, it's like having ballet shoes and all these. That's it, and that's it. Anyhow, so Ken Tyrrell offered me to drive Formula 2, and then one time in '67, I did the third fastest at the Nürburgring into the Formula 1 grid. And the Nürburgring is 23 kilometers long, 160 whatever corners. And but I must admit, when I was a little bit younger, even I did a competition. It was the 86 horse of the Nürburgring, 2 drivers, regularity. So even if you're not really clever, at the end, I guarantee you, you know where the track goes. And you know every detail of it. So I use it later. And that race with not that car, another one, because that I was trying some more camber on the car and it didn't work. And that was before and that was after. Go.
You drove for Lotus for a while too. What was Chapman like? And the preparation of their cars was always talked about.
Well, I will not answer to that now, but I'm sorry. The result of the Nürburgring was Jacky Stewart was negotiating his contract to go to Ferrari in '68. And in the negotiation, the story says that he was discussing with a commendator, and the commendator says to his secretary, "What does he want, this Inglese? What does he want, this Inglese? La mia fabbrica? He wants my manufacturer of cars." And that was the end of the negotiation. So thanks to Jacky, they came to me and they asked me to drive for Ferrari, where I spent 5 years. And we had success in every aspect. Prototype with Mario, for example, who was my teammate, or successes with Derek Bell, who was another nice human person. So we had a lot of friendship. We matched well. We didn't have to argue on anything. We had the same philosophy, and then we won the 4 times Le Mans. Anyhow, motor racing, it's made with some up and down, and sometimes the right choice and sometimes not. So I left Ferrari in '73 because I had a number of technical problems, and I went to Lotus, who was very successful and competitive, but unfortunately, when I arrived, it became more complicated on budget because motor racing was expensive. You see the appearance. The nice thing about motor racing before the '70s, you were mercenary in a way, supposed to be professional, but we were professional mercenary. We could race where we want. For example, I was able to race for Ford Motor in long distance and Ferrari in Formula 1. This type of idea cannot exist today. Plus the fact that today you have also the exclusivity of a sponsor. So drivers today can only do one thing at a time. And that's the difference with the time I belong to, that's the time of the dinosaur. Dinosaurs were able to do off-road racing, long distance, Formula One, Formula Two, saloon car racing without any problem. So that type of, that race of driver will never exist anymore. And that's how Jacky or Mario or race midget car, NASCAR, Indy, Formula One, Le Mans, and all these things will not exist anymore. You will have real professional in the future. And you see it, we are quite relaxed. I think on one side you have Clay Regazzoni, who had that terrible accident in Long Beach at the end of the straight where he lost his legs. Me and a young Italian Ferrari driver called Ignacio Giunti, who lost his life in Argentina. Go. We are concerned today because the motivation of this morning was to explain you the progress of safety and the important role played by few companies and few pioneers like Yves. The only thing there was at that 1970, there were few guardrails. At the time, few catch fencing to stop the car, a little bit of gravel and nothing else. In this picture, you see that you have to be lucky sometimes. So I was hit by Jacky Oliver, who was my teammate at Le Mans. It took me on an angle of 90 degrees. There was 210 liters of fuel in the car, so the chassis was damaged. I was trapped in it. I didn't stay long, but maybe 12 or 14 seconds into it. But I had already an equipment, fireproof equipment. But you see, still, the result, it's the helmet. It can show you, after that you can go to church and thanks the Lord for almost every Sunday if you go to church, because it was really a miracle. Also, I fall in the fuel, so I was burned at the hands and the legs and so on. So that's why I say at the end, if you are a survivor, it's really nice. Huh? Thank you.
Here.
Thank you, Yves, for doing. Alors, Yves has most of my life given me the overalls. I must admit, I was Bell on the helmets because he made also some helmets, but I think the fidelity is very important when you're concerned in motor racing, and money is not the main goal, really. There is many other aspects that are really important. Alors,
here are three survivors.
Yes, I mean, one of the you're right. There are few. Brian, who lives in the United States, it's fantastic. David Hobbs on the extreme is the one who was commenting on TV and who has a big sense of humor. And the two are, when they have a little glass of white wine or red wine, they are very funny. They are really very funny. And well, I'm amazed. I'm smiling there. Yeah, well, and that's in Monza. Monza probably 67 or 68, either with the Ford Mirage or with the GT40. Okay. I love that. First of all, you have in the middle, well, the chance you have when I live a long time on any, from the 1960s and until, of course, now. You meet people who are incredible. Paul Newman, definitely outstanding. I would have loved to have Steve McQueen in it because also they are the people who were passionate like you are by motor racing, and they were doing well. They were really real contenders. So Carl Haas, that I loved so much, he always smoked that incredible huge, the word is correct, huh? A huge cigar? Okay. Most of the time he was chewing them more than smoking them. But he had, before the start, he was always making a sort of prayer around and... Okay. I love the car. To me, the Lola I drove in the Can-Am is the car with the highest level of motor racing aspect, plus the V8, plus the noise. Noise is part of the music and of motor racing. I think later this morning you're going to speak about electrical cars and all these things and safety in electrical cars. It's not really the same type of music. So I loved the car. I love these two men, and I'm touched to see Carl like that because it's a long time and it reminds me the good days.
Yes.
Yes, because you have to know in motor racing, there are a lot of happiness, but also there are a lot of sadness. And you have wounds you never recover of, but you live with it. Like, we all know that in life. We have some losses sometimes. You never recover.
You raced at IROC and the high-speed ovals, which weren't your favorite. But I looked through here, many of these are NASCAR drivers who are survivors today. Darrell Waltrip and several others. Richard Petty is still around. So maybe the closed car turned out to be safer for them, even with the high speeds.
My first reaction is to say, when I see the IROC, is to say it was an experience. Hello. In '69, everybody believed really I could be world champion, and I met Bill France, senior. So after the 24th of Daytona, I say, well, would you like to try a NASCAR car and to do the 500 of Daytona? So as I was totally innocent, I say, why not? And I think he was innocent too in a way because he didn't know the story afterwards. Anyhow, he was nice. He was really nice to ask Junior Johnson. I'm sure he was at the time clearly the man of the NASCAR and having the best possible car. So the Monday after the 24th, I was on the track and they say, go carefully and learn, okay. And honestly, it's difficult to drive a car like this. It was difficult at the time, and at that time it was probably even more difficult for me, not for the others. But the morning was nice, and say, okay, now you're okay, you're well seated, you know what the pedals are, you can shift it well, and okay. I felt it was really loose after driving the GT40, entering in the banking flat out and everything. So with that Junior Johnson car, I really had to think about what I was going to do. Anyhow, it was reasonably okay to say. So the afternoon, they say, now you can go. So I go. I did 3 laps. I crashed in the wall. I lost. First, I saw the front fender going in, and then the door went out, and the car was reducing progressively. And at the end, there was only half a car in the direction. The rest was missing. That was the end of my career in NASCAR. So 15 years later, Les Richter. Who knows Les Richter?
Yes.
Les Richter.
California guy.
Riverside. What a lovely person. I love it very much. Anyhow, we race. I was racing that with George Fulmer, who was preparing the car for me and giving all the indication. I thought 15 years, that maybe I will understand how it works, but unfortunately, I still did not understand how it works, and so I was permanently last. So please take that picture out. But I'm glad to know everybody is alive. And you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. The cars have improved so much. They were strong in those days. They are even better today. And clearly, generally in motor racing,
General Tire.
the race course, it's day and night racing. It's really day and night.
You referred to this earlier at the Le Mans, where
So the pictures are not in order.
no,
Oh, sorry.
but a man of your. But
So this is Chris Damon running. I don't know where, but he's running, but not in the direction of the car. And clearly I go to the car. So maybe the question is, where is he going? Maybe to the loo? Or a last minute pit stop? I don't know. And on the other side, it's me crossing the road. I must admit, it took too much time to join the other side. So at the end, I had to do a sort of movement like this and press the last two steps, because otherwise I would have been eaten by a number of cars. So I ran a little bit. I didn't walk on. The last part was in urgency. Thank you.
and your good friends here. Many people associate you with Porsche in those years, and
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it's a pity to spoil the champagne like that, the finish. Yes, we look young, Derek, the famous Derek Bell. And that must be the 1982 win with the Porsche made by that incredible engineer, it's Norbert Singer. Yes, you're ready to sign. That makes me think, when you're young, you're ready to sign for one win at Le Mans. You will sign a contract, you win the one time, okay. What is fantastic, it's clear that it's to win 6 times. And to win 6 times and to be in the right car in the team. Because in the team, there is always one who doesn't work well, and another one who has never any kind of problem. Anyhow, that shows us, I'm sorry, that shows us that that you need to be extremely lucky in a way, and in the destinies, your path is directed by the people who give you the option to go left or right, because that changed the trajectory. That make me think about the people who prepare the car. For example, in long distance, I think the guy who made that book discovered that we won. I'm sorry, I don't like to say I, but people like Derek and Brian and Mario and Jochen Maas, I share the steering. We won 46 long distance races and more than 80 podium. So that's why also I always say that the mileage I've covered we will miss the last one, but it's impressive to survive and to avoid all fatal accident, because even as it was mentioned by Yves, the security has changed drastically. But in motor racing, you have the speed and the fatality, which always, unfortunately, which always exist. But the basic idea is to do everything you can do to make a better car, a safer track, and safer equipment. I love the, you know, I love the color blue and white. I have always blue and white, basically. That's to remind me that it's 10 o'clock.
One more.
Okay. I love the shoes of Yves there, or match my jacket, for example. Thank you, Yves, for making these shoes for me today. They are also fireproof. Anyhow, hello.
So in California, we're very familiar with off-road, with the Baja 500, Baja 1000, the Sport people we know. Yves a big fan of off-road. So we know a little bit about desert racing. But you have been there, and you won. You've been many Paris-Dakars. You've won the event.
How many more minutes I have?
As many as you want, sir.
No, because I saw at 10 o'clock there is someone following me.
Stay all day.
He agrees. He is
You
okay.
agree? Okay.
He is following you.
Thank you. So, Paris-Dakar is the longest and, in my opinion, the hardest rally in the world. On the sports side, it's incredible. You start the day, the distance roughly, it's 10,000, 12,000 kilometers, sometimes 14,000 kilometers. And at the time, 3 weeks of racing with 2 days of rest. So very demanding for the machine. You start in the morning, and for 800 kilometers, sometimes 700 kilometers, you go flat out in the middle of nowhere. And it's an interesting experience because you cannot cheat with yourself. You're facing the reality of the desert roads and the emptiness of certain surface of the African continent. And I love the idea that you just can't cheat and can't tell all sorts of excuses if you're stuck in the sand, and you're facing problems that you haven't known before, and you never know how to solve them, and you have to find your way. Plus the fact that you discover the interest is, one is the sport aspect, the second one is to discover Africa and people who don't live like we live. To live the solidarity who exists in those countries to survive. And also you realize how small you are, whatever you have done on this planet. When you have the emptiness around you, the human aspect of the people who survive in the difficult conditions, or are the majority of people on this planet. 2/3 of the planet doesn't live like us, and they face daily survival circumstances. So that was a positive aspect for me, because rather than being only focused on motor racing and winning, because the goal is winning, to be one of the best, if possible. You have a vision on the world who goes to 180 degrees, and you can understand the difference. It's a huge difference. If you have the possibility to see the invisible and to pay attention to them, it changes your life. Enfin, now you know what I'm thinking about that aspect. Anyhow, the other aspect is the incredible, you see the Porsche who exists, that's a 959, that one, but you had the same version in 911, and you see the new version 2500 piece of that Porsche is made of that era. Anyhow, I tell you the story, the right story for that. When I came out of that car in '83, I went back to the factory, at Porsche factory, and I saw their rally car running on the test track. And I thought that could be the car for Paris-Dakar. That could be the challenge to bring a sport car into an off-road race. And what I didn't know at the time, they were preparing their first four-wheel drive transmission. And that's the reason why they joined me. But as they were careful, I was entering the car, organized the team. They made the car. We made a list of things we have to modify it. And with their engineer and with their mechanics, we did the first 911, or was a winning car. We make a second attempt with that car, but that car was too new, too much electronic at the time, or were not, hasn't run before. There is an engine of biturbo engine, or was the first one also for Porsche in it. So year 2, we missed it, and year 3, they won again. That car was able to do 230 kilometers per hour in the desert. And I must admit, I didn't do it personally. I stopped at 210. I think that was enough. But my teammate with the other car pushed flat out and did 230 kilometers per hour. And to represent that iconic era, Porsche decided to make that limited series of Paris-Dakar. So
Your colors. Your favorite.
not my color, that's Rothman's color. That's Rothman, the cigarette.
Yeah.
That's the other amazing thing. I was sponsored often by cigarette company, but I never smoke. Enfin, it has to stay between us, of course. Huh? Is the end? No. Yeah, but we have seen that one. That's enough. We have seen that one already.
No, we want to.
So,
And whatever memories you have of seeing you race or reading about Jacky racing in the old days, to hear him live in this casual, even though I was rushed a little bit by the projector person, to see him in this environment and see him up close, it's just terrific. This is going to stick with you a long, long time. The day you saw Jacky Ickx.
honestly, I try to catch up with the time where motor racing, when you're young, it's about ego, individualism, and there are qualities that I don't recommend to anyone. But you see, with the time running, it helps you to appreciate what the other do for you. And today, the most important part, I've told you a few stories. The best one, I'm sorry, I keep for another time because they are more, they don't have to be known. No, I think maybe later. But anyhow, thank you for having joined us. Thank you to have shared with Stand 21 your interest for motor racing safety. I think we are lucky that racing exists today and without hurting anyone. Maybe it happened one day, but it's extraordinary compared to that era of the 70s where you had 2 or 3 Formula One drivers dying every year. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for being there. And I love these moments with what I call my friends. And yes, we are together involved in that.
With many friends.
Thank you.